The warrior is one of the most relentlessly portrayed figures in modern media. Yet rarely is he tied to myth, and rarer still portrayed well. The duel between Achilles and Hector in the movie Troy stands apart. It grants us the rare chance to witness the shadow of the warrior archetype in its full, unrelenting form. And so, let us begin our descent into the psychology of one of the most hauntingly beautiful moments ever committed to film.
Hector!
Few sound strikes as deeply as the cry of a soul consumed by the hunger for revenge. It is this sound that echoes over the walls of Troy, Achilles broken by grief, summoning the one who caused it. This is not merely the voice of a man. It is not even the voice of Achilles, the greatest warrior in all of Greece. It is the voice of the warrior's shadow, summoned into flesh. A being born the moment Hector killed the only person Achilles truly loved. But more than that, the one who was the vessel of Achilles' unconscious projections of the child, the innocent. An archetype long buried in the deepest recesses of Achilles' psyche, abandoned to the shadow when the warrior seized full command of his soul. A sacrifice demanded of all who wish to rise above the rest, especially those who would dare to become the greatest warrior ever known. And when one commits to the path of the warrior, one enters an internal struggle, an inner battle for balance. It is this tension that keeps the warrior noble and the road to greatness within reach. But should that balance be lost, the shadow waits, ready to consume the soul behind the blade. Both Hector and Achilles were warriors, relatively noble, relatively balanced, but in the heat of desperation that gripped Troy, each lost their footing and each paid the price. Hector would be the first to stumble, in his desperation to protect his home, his family, and his legacy. He led a daring raid against the invaders from Greece. And in the chaos of battle, he saw him, Achilles, rallying his warriors, or so he thought. It is often claimed that the killing of Patroclus was an honest mistake, that a noble man like Hector would never have struck down Achilles, beloved with full intent. But this is not true. Hector was a warrior, and in that moment, he did not see a chance to save his people. He saw a chance to become legend, to take the legacy of the greatest warrior of all Greece and make it his own. He stepped willingly into the arena formed by the clash of shields and the cries of war. And in that arena, he saw only what the warrior archetype wanted him to see: an opportunity for glory. A man of Hector's caliber would have recognized a pretender from the true Achilles. But in the heat of battle, he surrendered to the warrior within. And the shadow of that archetype took control. A truth confirmed by the very eyes of Achilles' soldiers. They began to realize, too late, that the man facing Hector in the arena was not Achilles, it was Patroclus. It was innocence. And as Hector stood above the fallen body, his satisfied smile began to fade. The fog of the warrior's shadow lifted, and what remained was the horror of what he had done. He had slain the child. This was the moment Hector truly died, not by Achilles' spear, but by the blade of his own unconscious shadow. He had lost the battle within, and now the price had to be paid. Had Hector remained in balance, Had he seen through the illusion, he would have spared innocence. Achilles would have left Troy, the city would have stood, and Hector might have become the legend he longed to be.
We were going to sail home today. I don't think anyone's sailing home now.
But instead, he now found himself within the walls of Troy, haunted by the cry echoing from beyond.
Hector! Hector!
A sound not merely of vengeance, but of reckoning. A summons back to the arena, where he would be held accountable for his failings as a warrior. And awaiting him there was the embodiment of the warrior's shadow itself. Even as his beloved wife, cradling their newborn son, the image of the lover, the feminine, the very soul of life, begged him to stay. It was no use.
You don't have to go. You don't.
Hector was a warrior before he was a husband, before he was a father, before he was a man. To suppress that calling now would not be courage, it would be soul death. To deny the warrior within would mean the birth of something lesser, a hollow echo of himself, a man without legacy, a name forgotten by time. And so Hector, the man, said his quiet farewell to the world of warmth and comfort. He stepped beyond the gates, not to chase glory, but to preserve something deeper, his soul. To walk the desert and face the shadow of the warrior, not in hope of victory, but to meet his end with dignity. To fall as himself rather than live as something hollow. But this arena, this ancient dream made manifest, is a nightmare. And within it, the shadow of the warrior forces Hector to face the brutal truth. He, Prince of Troy, is not the noble lion he believed himself to be, but merely a man whose weakness led to not only the death of innocence, but perhaps to the death of his professed greatest love, Troy, the mother he swore to protect. And such a man is seen as prey through the lens of a lion, through the lens of the warrior. Mockingly, Achilles removes his helm, exposing not just his face, but the absurdity of Hector's failure to see through a mask. Hector in turn removes his own helm. To him, it is a gesture of transparency, of honesty. He once again insists that he truly believed it was Achilles he faced in the battle the day before. But the words are not for Achilles, they are for himself, a final desperate attempt to avoid the full weight of the truth, that it was not a mistake, that the warrior within him chose what it wanted to see. This attempt at perceived nobility only deepens Achilles' disgust. Even now, standing at the edge of death, Hector lacks the courage to speak the truth. Even now, he cannot face what he has done. The patience of the lion has faded. Now Achilles turns to the only language Hector cannot ignore, cannot suppress, the language of the warrior. He begins to circle, step by step. He tightens the noose, each movement a silent strike, each gesture designed to fracture Hector's mask. The warrior facade begins to crack. The dance of deconstruction continues. With each step, Hector feels his mask fracture, slowly, painfully exposed, not only to the eyes of others, but to himself. Achilles makes it unmistakably clear Hector was never the warrior they believed him to be. He is merely a tool used by the true warrior to prove his merit, to carve his legacy. And even when Hector's blade scrapes the arm of Achilles, the lion does not flinch in fear, but recoils in disgust. Disgust at the weakness revealed in himself. How could he, a lion, be touched by a man so pitiful? For a brief moment, Hector senses hope. He sees himself as a warrior again. But Achilles wastes no time dismantling the illusion. With a single blow, he sends Hector crashing to the ground, face pressed into the dust. "Get up, Prince of Troy, get up! I will not let a stone steal my glory," he mocks. A line that cuts deeper than the strike itself. Hector scrambles to his feet, grabbing a broken spear as he rises, not as a rival, but as a prop. Another broken figure used in the service of the warrior's legacy. The lion, the warrior, has lost all patience. It descends upon its prey with surgical precision. And in a final act of symbolic dominance, Achilles takes the broken spear from Hector's hands and turns it against him, disarming him. Now Hector kneels in the dust, a shattered weapon himself, at the mercy of the warrior. And mercy comes in the only language the warrior understands, a swift death at the edge of the blade. And so it ends. A duel, a story as old as humanity itself, one we still see played out around us, if we have the eyes to see it. Let this battle serve as a warning. The warrior must remain in balance. Honor the innocent. Stay conscious. Because if you don't, one day you may wake to find that the only life left to you is the one left inside the arena.